I'm Gloria Allred, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Gloria, and I'm Randy Hansen. In world news headlines today, Republicans debate ahead of New Hampshire primary. And former Senator Rick Santorum targeted Ron Paul over his record in Congress. And Romney suggests only wealthy people should run for office. And Gingrich accuses Romney of looting companies. And billionaire casino mogul gives $5 million to pro-Gingrich super PAC. And unemployment rate drops to 8.5, lowest since 2009. And Representative Gifford attends candlelight vigil to mark anniversary of Tucson shooting. And Iran and U.S. tensions escalate as Iran sentences U.S. citizen to death. And Panetta admits Iran is not trying to develop a nuclear weapon. And U.S. and Iran is now trying to, U.S. and Iran trying to hold major military exercises in the Persian Gulf. And thousands in Yemen protest deal to grant immunity to Saleh. And Bahrain bars U.S.-based human rights official from entering country. And Blackwater settles with families of guards slain at Fallujah. And 100,000 displaced by ethnic violence in South Sudan. And Nigeria, a general strike begins over rising fuel costs. And Texas teen returns home after being mistakenly deported to Colombia. And MSNBC suspends Pat Buchanan. And Occupy Our Homes action in New York City enters second month. And Occupy named 2011 Word of the Year. And African National Congress celebrates 100th anniversary. GVTV News would like to say the views expressed on our news broadcast do not necessarily reflect the views of NCTV Digital Media Center. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, the Republican presidential race in New Hampshire has entered its final full day before Tuesday's primary, the first in the nation. The leading candidates appeared in a debate over the weekend. Former Speaker of House Newt Gingrich accused frontrunner Mitt Romney of being too moderate. Newt Gingrich said, "There's a huge difference between the Reagan conservative and somebody who comes out of Massachusetts culture with an essentially moderate record, who I think will have a very hard time in a debate with President Obama." And Rick Santorum said, "The serious issue with Congressman Paul is, you're right, he's never really passed anything of any importance. And one of the reasons people like Congressman Paul is he's economic plan. He's never been able to accomplish any of that. He has no track record of being able to work together. He's been out there on the margins and has really been unsuccessful in working together with anybody to do anything." During Sunday's presidential debate, Mitt Romney, who is worth more than $250 million, suggests only wealthy people should run for office. He repeated advice from his father, who said, "He had good advice to me. He said, Mitt, never get involved in politics if you have to win an election to pay a mortgage. If you find yourself in a position when you can serve, why, you ought to have a responsibility to do so if you think you can make a difference." And Mitt Romney's record heading up the private equity firm Bain Capital is coming under increasing scrutiny On Sunday, Newt Gingrich accused Romney of looting the companies bought out by Bain. He said the article apparently outlined the details of Bain Capital acquired a company, in essence, looted it, and then laid off 1,700 people. Now, if that's accurate, and if there are 3 or 4 or 5 examples like that, then I think that's troubling. I don't think those of us who believe in free markets and those of us who believe in the fact that the whole goal of investment is entrepreneurship and job creation would find it pretty hard to justify rich people figuring out clever legal ways to loot a company, leaving behind 1,700 families without a job. And in campaign news, the billionaire casino mogul Sheldon Adelson has given $5 million to the pro-Gingrich super PAC called Winning Our Future, while individual donors are barred from giving more than $2,500 to a candidate. They can give unlimited money to independent groups known as super PACs. Adelson had previously given more than $7 million to Gingrich's former PAC, American Solutions for Winning the Future. Adelson is owner of Israel's largest daily newspaper and a close friend of Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. He's worth more than $21 billion. In economic news, the national official unemployment rate has dropped to 8.5%, its lowest level since early 2009. Of course, most people just quit looking for a job. That's why it's lowered. On Friday, the Labor Department said that it added 200,000 jobs in December, but at least 42,000 so-called new jobs were courier positions hired ahead of holiday shopping rush. President Obama hailed the jobs figures and announced a new initiative to support American business owners to shift work back home. He said, "We're heading in the right direction and we're not going to let up." On Wednesday, the White House will host a forum called Insourcing American Jobs. We'll hear from business leaders who will bring jobs back to home and see how we can help businesses follow their lead, because this is a make or break moment in the middle class and those working to get there. We've got to keep it up, and we've got to keep creating jobs so that everyone gets a fair shot, everyone does their fair share, and everyone plays by the same rules. Thousands of people gathered in Tucson, Arizona, Sunday for a candlelight vigil remembering the 6 people killed last year in this deadly shooting that left Democratic Arizona Representative Gabriel Giffords gravely wounded. The shooting occurred January 8, 2011, outside a supermarket where Giffords was meeting with constituents. On Sunday, the Arizona Democrat led the crowd in recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. Her husband, Mark Kelly, a retired astronaut, also addressed the crowd and said, "For the past year, we've had new realities to live with. The reality and pain of letting go of the past, the reality of letting go of dear friends and family members, and also the pain of knowing that with adequate mental health intervention and treatment, that we may not be here tonight." While memorial events were held across Tucson, the city also hosted a major gun show this weekend. The Crossroads of the West gun show was held on Saturday, Sunday at the Pima County Fairgrounds. There have been a number of developments in the heightening tension between Iran and the United States. Earlier yesterday, Iran announced it had sentenced a U.S.-born man to death for allegedly spying for the CIA. The United States had denied the Arizona-born Amir Mirza Hekmati is a spy. Meanwhile, U.S. Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner is traveling to China and Japan this week in an effort to push for expanded sanctions on Iran. On Sunday, U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta appeared on CBS, Face the Nation, to discuss Iran. He said, "I think the pressure of the sanctions, I think the pressure of diplomatic pressure from everywhere, Europe and the United States and elsewhere, is working to put pressure on them to make them understand they cannot continue to do what they're doing. Are they trying to develop a nuclear weapon? No, but we know now they are trying to develop a nuclear capability, and that's what concerns us, and our red line to Iran is, do not develop a nuclear weapon. That's a red line for us." Iran and the United States have both announced plans to hold major military exercises in the Persian Gulf in the coming months. U.S. exercise will be done in conjunction with Israel. Meanwhile, in defiance of the United States, Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez has welcomed Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad to Venezuela. On Friday, State Department officials said, "We are making absolutely clear to the countries around the world that now is not the time to be deepening ties, not securing ties, not economic ties with Iran." Thousands of protesters gathered in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a Sunday to protest a draft law to grant immunity to outgoing President Ali Abdullah Saleh. The demonstrators called for Saleh and his relatives to face trial for killing more than 1,000 people since the uprising demanded his ouster began a year ago. And Bahrain is refusing to allow top officials from the U.S.-based human rights organization to enter the country to observe the trial of 21 doctors and nurses who were jailed for treating injured protesters. Richard Solom, deputy president of Physicians of Human Rights, tried to enter Bahrain on Sunday. Richard Solom appeared on Democracy Now! Last May after another trip in Bahrain and had said, "In my 20 years of looking at violations of medical neutrality and human rights during times of war and civil war, I personally have never seen such widespread and systematic targeting of physicians, such egregious violations of the principles of the medical neutrality." Well, Bahrain definitely is stepping over the line. The red line, I think. Private security company known as Blackwater has reached a settlement of the families of 4 Blackwater guards killed in a convoy ambush in Fallujah, Iraq in March 2004. After being shot, the men's bodies were dragged through the streets and mutilated. 2 of the corpses were strung from a bridge. Victims' families accused Blackwater of sending them into hostile territory unprepared and without sufficient protection. Virginia Pilot reports a company known as Academy agreed for a total of payout of $635,000. And in South Sudan, more than 100,000 people have been displaced following an outbreak of ethnic violence in recent weeks. There are conflicting reports on the number of people killed. One local official put the death toll at 3,000, but United Nations officials said no evidence has been found of mass killings. And Andrew Jackson, World Food Program officer in South Sudan, said, "We're currently here with over 2,000 internally displaced people that fled their village from hunger, conflicts, and killings. They traveled 150 kilometers over a 10-day period without any food or water. This is the first chance they've been able to find a safe place to stay, and where we, the World Food Program, can help the most vulnerable by giving them a 1-month food ration." And more than 10,000 protesters rallied in Lagos, Nigeria, one day in one of a general strike to protest soaring fuel prices and decades of government corruption in an oil-rich country. The strike has been backed by 2 major unions as well as Occupy Nigeria. The strike has shut down schools, banks, shops, and businesses in Lagos and other cities. At least 1 protester has been reportedly shot dead. And a Texas teenager who mistakenly deported to Colombia despite being a U.S. citizen has been reunited with her family. 15-year-old Jacqueline Turner, deported last May after U.S. authorities mistook her for a Colombia national. Turner's ordeal began when she gave police a fake name and she was arrested for shoplifting. Turner was deported even though her fingerprints did not match and she spoke no Spanish. Ray Jackson, attorney for the family, said the family is ecstatic. We're happy to have her daughter home. We're planning to get some rest, planning to do what we can to make sure she's able to get back into living a normal life. Respect those wishes. We're going to take the days and we plan to make a statement and proceed forward. But we're so happy and we're ready to get her home. We're happy to have her back. And in media news, MSNBC has suspended right-wing commentator Pat Buchanan following the publication of his book Suicide of a Superpower and his appearance on a white nationalist radio station. ColorOfChange.org and Credo Action launched a petition drive last year to have Buchanan fired because of one of the petitions described as his xenophobia, bigotry, and hate speech. In his new book, Buchanan writes that European and Christian core of our country is shrinking, which is damaging the national ethnicity, culturally, morality, and politically, and then ended the book, The End of a White America. In New York City, an occupation of vacant home has entered its second month. Community organizers, church groups, and Occupy Wall Street protesters took over the property on December 6th during the Occupy Our Homes action to reclaim foreclosed homes and bailed out banks. The home is located in Brooklyn's East New York neighborhood, which is marked with high rates of foreclosure and abandoned properties. Alfredo Carrasquillo says he hopes to inspire similar actions across the country and said, "When I was going through the shelter with my kids and their mother, we decided we didn't want to go through that no more. And that's why I wound up couch hopping, because I didn't want to go through the experience anymore. I didn't want my kids to have to go through the experience anymore. So it came to this point where I jumped in this opportunity. I wanted to make a national movement to help all the families that are homeless and dealing with the situation I had to deal with. The next steps are to move in more families, hoping to do large movement of multiple families into homes, which is the potential next step that we're working towards." And the word occupy has been chosen as the word of the year for 2011. Selection was made by linguists at the American Dialect Society. In South Africa, African National Congress, or ANC, is celebrating the 100th anniversary of its founding. The once banned ANC led the struggle that finally ended the apartheid white minority rule in 1994, when elections ushered in a multiracial democracy. Participants in the weekend festivals included Reverend Jesse Jackson. And so, he said, so the whole world said no to apartheid. South Africa's greatest strength, frankly, is not its resource of gold and diamonds, but its moral authority. South Africa convinced the world to end the regime that was inhumane, and now we see South Africa on the growing curve. And that's it for World News today. Now we would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
Something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter, and the pictures in the blotter not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department on Thursday, 9:18 a.m. Caller from 200 block of Mill Street reported a suspicious briefcase with balloons sticking out of it. The items were collected by an officer. And 1:37 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Harris Street called to report a vehicle embezzlement of a 1987 Ford van that was loaned out but never returned. Officers located the person the vehicle was reportedly loaned to, who had in her possession a bill of sale and a DMV paperwork. At 5:59 p.m., a caller from apartment 300 block of Bennett Street reported a neighbor who had been put up cardboard and a fan in a window. The caller wanted an officer to come to her house and see what she sees, which she described as very unusual. At 9:50 p.m., a caller from 300 block of East Bennett Street reported people playing with flaming batons. Incident was forwarded to CAL FIRE. In Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Thursday, 11:40 a.m., a caller from near the intersection of Highway 49 and McKnight Way reported a fight between a man and a woman on the side of the road. And 2:32 p.m., a caller from 10,600 block of Alta Street reported some people burning marijuana plant stalks. At 2:48 p.m., a caller from the area of Madrone Springs Road and Conservation Road reported subjects shooting a cluster of mailboxes described as black Chevy Silverado. The caller made reference reported to recent poaching of deer in the area. At 4:11 p.m., a caller from 1500 block of Happy Dale Court reported her roommate had stolen her new cordless phone and charger she just purchased from Kmart. She made the call from a neighbor's phone. At 7:26 p.m., a caller from 12,300 block of Bitney Springs Road reported attempted theft of a barbecue from Penn Valley Fire Station number 45. 9:42 p.m., personnel from Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital reported someone in their lobby claiming to be homeless and looking for a place to stay for the night. After more than 15 minutes, the person admitted to have an income and has ability to return to her Auburn home, but said she spent all her money on marijuana. 10:30 p.m., a caller from Sadie D. Drive requested a welfare check on his inebriated father, who has access to firearms. Caller said the father is unpredictable with drinking and prone to shooting off rounds. The father also reportedly has a police scanner. In Nevada City Police Department on Thursday, 9:50 p.m., a woman from 100 block of Boulder Street called for the police because a man standing in front of the house across the street asked her to, for an unknown reason. The woman could not describe the man. In Grass Valley Police Department on Friday, 12:56 p.m., an employee from a business 100 block of South Auburn Street reported refusing to sell to someone with an expired driver's license. When the subject was refused, they left the money on the counter and took 3 Corona beers and drove off in a black Jeep Grand Cherokee. Subject was described as wearing a tan jacket and an eye patch. 2:20 p.m., caller from Memorial Park reported juveniles smoking in the park and males and females entering the bathroom facilities together. 4:40 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Huntington Court reported that his daughter saw 3 juveniles egg a house in the neighborhood. And Saturday, 7:41 a.m., a caller from 500 block of Butler Street reported that her front door and window were sprayed with paint overnight. 3:01 p.m., a caller from 300 block in North School Street called to verify if a man outside her window was Grass Valley police officer, as he claimed to be. He was not. Dispatch asked if the woman would like an officer to respond. She declined, and she said just needed a reality check. 5:18 p.m., caller from 100 block of Stennett Street said he located a vehicle he reported stolen 2 days prior in the apartments on the 300 block of East Bennett Road. At 7:19 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Biggs Avenue reported unknown subjects have been throwing rocks at the apartment building and cars. And Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Friday, 9:05 a.m., a caller from 13,300 block of Wolf Road reported the theft of baby Jesus from a nativity scene. 3:26 p.m., a caller from 15,000 block of Colfax Highway reported finding 2 containers of marijuana inside a storage unit. And Saturday, 10:33 a.m., a caller from 20,300 block of Gunstock Road reported that her daughter's car had the windows broken out and was egged. Caller stated the daughter also had been threatened lately and it might be related. At 11:17 p.m., a caller from 12,300 block of Rough and Ready Highway reported that she gave $500 cash to someone in exchange for a check which turned out to belong to the Salvation Army Church. 12:28 p.m., a caller from 10,200 block of School Street reported that a man threw a Molotov cocktail at her house. The man was arrested and his motorcycle was towed. And that's it for the blotter today. Now we'd like to thank another one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County, GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
In local news headlines, late night walk leads to felony meth arrest, and second soapbox derby registration approaches, and fire at Humpty Dumpty Diner in Grass Valley. In today's first local story, written by Christopher Rosacker, it started with Nevada County Sheriff's Office deputy noticing a man and a woman wearing dark clothes and walking on a roadside late at night. It ended with a felony arrest. At about 10:15 p.m. Thursday, Adam Sauer, 23, Nevada City, was walking along Ridge Road near Alta Street, just outside of Grass Valley, with his girlfriend, said Sheriff Sergeant Alicia Milhouse. The pair were wearing dark clothes and had no flashlights, Milhouse said. A deputy stopped the duo to offer safety advice about walking in the dark, but then the deputy asked for Sauer's name. He reported a false one. By that time, Grass Valley police officer arrived on the scene. When the officers searched Sauer, they found glass pipe, digital scale, and methamphetamine packaged in a way that indicated an intent to distribute. Not everyone walks around with digital scales, Milhouse said. It was unclear how much meth officers found. Sauer is being held in lieu of $37,000 bail on suspicion of having controlled substance, a felony, and on suspicion of having paraphernalia and being under the influence of a controlled substance, both misdemeanors. His girlfriend faces no charges. After being brought to the county jail, officers found the county superior court judge had issued a bench warrant because Sauer allegedly had failed to appear in court earlier that same day. The reason for his court appearance was not available as of this story. FBI has asked for public assistance in locating a 37-year-old Lincoln man suspected of homicide. Gerardo Constantino Ramirez is wanted for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution in connection with the October 10th death of Antonio Morales. Ramirez allegedly shot Morales during an altercation at a Lincoln residence. After a local arrest warrant was issued, the federal arrest warrant was issued October 20th. Ramirez, pictured 5 foot 6 inches tall, weighing 180 pounds, has brown hair, brown eyes. He is a Hispanic and is considered armed and dangerous. He also goes by alias Rudolfo Constant Ramirez. Gerardo Constantino Ramirez and a couple others. Individuals with information about his whereabouts can call the Sacramento Field Office 916-481-9110. In another Christopher Rosacker story from the Union, an anticipated mounts for the June 16th follow-up of last year's Nevada City Adult Soapbox Derby event coordinator Rich Bodine cautions hopeful participants need to register and make sure they have a spot in the race before starting construction on their vessel. Last year's maiden voyage on the Soapbox Derby was wildly popular. With an estimated 4,000 people turnout, it raised more than $5,000 to benefit Pioneer Park. The money was used to install a bocce ball court at the park. The reason for this event works is because of supports for the community businesses in the city, Bodine told the Union. January 5th, along with Nimrod Street race route next to Pioneer Park. This year's registration will be modified lottery format, held January 29th at Mateo's Public in Nevada City, as opposed to last year's first come sign up. And a $50 deposit, hopeful racers can enter to be chosen for one of the 25 available standard entry spots. If selected, deposits are non-refundable towards $200 entry fee. The remaining applicants will determine a waiting list. Those not wanting to take their chances with the standard entry lottery in the spaces will also be available for those who make the top 5 pledges in the park fund. Those who are not chosen will automatically enter into the standard lottery. The remainder of the open 42 spots will be allocated to last year's winners and event organizers. We're going to use the same car, but we're going to tweak it and make it better, said Rick McCain, part of last year's winning Telestream team. Bodine said he only allowed teams to re-enter the same vehicle 2 years in a row. Next year, Telestream will have to scrap and rebuild. I always meant it to be a Craigslist kind of thing, Bodine said, the car building process. The cap on amount spent during the soapbox racer construction jumps to $500 this year, up from last year's $400 limit. Bodine said the means to re-entry can tack on $100 worth of upgrades but not spend an additional $5,000. Beyond banning head-first cars, this year's rules are long, so visit it. Well, ncderby.com is where you can find that out. And applicants are not required to be present at the registration event. Deposits and lottery applications may be delivered in advance to the Nevada City Chamber of Commerce during the normal business hours and submitted at the registration event. Mateo's Public will be donating 15% of any food and beverage purchases made between 2 and 6:30 p.m. on registration day to benefit the Pioneer Park project. This year's sponsors include Mike Bratton, State Farm Insurance, McSweeney's and Associates, ClientWorks Inc., KVMR, and Reeby's Auto Parts. And don't forget, this week, Wild and Scenic, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll be there. You should be too. You can watch this broadcast on Comcast Cable, NCTV Channel 11. Oh, and by the way, that I'm going to skip this today to tell you, NevadaCountyTV.org for the live stream for that.